Hey, welcome everyone.
Welcome, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year to everyone. We are in Mumbai, India, and it is 10:30 at night, and we are quite jet lagged. I'm just trying to make it so that our monitor is a little bit bigger. Um, so here we are. We don't have our regular fireplace. We don't have our regular setup. We have a little ghee lamp here and some beautiful rose petals. And we're going to jump into this and do this a little bit differently today. I'm excited about it. How
Yeah,
about
yeah. So we've been doing, as many of you know, some of you might be new. Also, maybe put in the chat if you're new, if this is your first time coming to the fire. We've been doing the online fire ceremonies, which is such a funny thing to do, kind of. But we've been doing them for about, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years now, every month, basically. So it's really a tradition that we do around the new moon time, usually the week around the new moon, around the dark time, to come together, to gather, to be with the sacred fire, to, offer our prayers and, to be in devotion together. And so, we generally will have either our fire pit in our yard, or we mostly use the one in our living room to offer to the fire. We do, offerings. So since we're here in like the motherland of fire and devotion, I felt like we need to still do it, and we need to do it how we are and how we can. And we're leading a pilgrimage next week. It starts on the 11th. Some of you are coming, right? The
you? On the
11th
10th.
starts on the
You
10th.
are leading it, so you should
Starts on the
know.
10th. Well, I'll be here. I'm here already. So, and so some of you are coming, which is really just so exciting. And everyone else, somebody's in Delhi.
Oh,
Yeah,
staying up late with us.
staying up late for the fire. And we wanted to sink in today into a little bit of a conversation around the soul and around, our devotion to that parcel of divinity that we carry within us, And I think it's so great that we can like connect and tune in with each other, people all over the world, to have this time where we like generate energy together, and for some of you this is like a really important thing that we do, you like really take it seriously and sincerely, and we do too, to like really come together in community and offer our prayers and offer, our attention and our affection towards love as transformation and not just transaction, and go into the deeper layers of our being, all the way down to our core, right, which is our soul, that is love. And so we wanted to just share a little bit and hear from you a little bit today, and then we'll do a practice and we'll have you do some channeled writing around this theme of devotion and devotion to that innermost being inside of all of our hearts, and in communion and in connection with that, which is a very wild and transformational and radical thing. Although, it feels and it seems like connecting to the soul, connecting to love is, like an obvious thing to do, but it can be quite destructive, to really follow those deeper calls within us. And it can be quite intense, to follow a path of devotion, as I've come to learn over these years.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, we're beginning the new year, and what a better way to do it than to just take a moment and consider, like, what do we want to have at the middle of us? Like, what do we want to have at the center of our lives? Really, that's what devotion is all about. It can mean a sort of spiritual devotion in terms of like how we're devoted to the path, how we're devoted to the divine itself, how we're devoted, you know, in Maha Yoga, in this process that we're in this work. It's like how we're devoted to the living presence of that divinity that is within us. And it's a radical thing. Like she said, it's the most simple thing in the world, but it's not the thing that we're getting, you know, our mailbox stuffed with every day. It's not the thing that is on our algorithms. It's something that you hear in these kind of contexts, and that we have in these kind of relationships and in these kind of communities, these conversations. And they're so important to have because, you know, Om Namah Shivaya. There's this really loud crash.
It's a weird sound.
Right on the roof, I guess. I don't know if we're on the top floor of this little hotel.
Oh my God.
We're in Mumbai in a very kind of how to say, chaotic little hotel. So we're not sure what's going on. Hopefully the Wi-Fi will keep working.
It's great. It's going strong right now.
And we're both like we're like drunk. We're not, you know, we're sober, but we're like drunk from just being so happy to be in India and so happy to be with you, and also quite jet lagged. I don't know if the sound came through, but it sounded like a billboard fell on the top of the hotel or something.
Okay.
All right, so what were we talking about? So when we do have the privilege to, and I really believe it is a privilege, where we have a privilege to do this work of kindling a fire inside, and, you know, meeting others who have that fire kindled that can light our lamp with theirs. You know, that we have this beautiful deepa or diya that we're going to use as our fire today, and we're going to do a practice with it. But if we have that privilege to do that work of like kindling that flame and then protecting that flame and tending to that flame, we need this kind of support. We need each other, basically. And there's so many different challenges that come at us and that will come at us this year, not because it's 2025 and there's a prediction for this year or anything like that, but because in every year, if we have an inner flame of divinity within us, it's going to be challenged. It just is.
Yeah. And I love the way, you know, in my experience, especially of embodiment, you know, and really coming into a deeper relationship to what it means to really live, you know, from and like for that deep place within. I think that's where the challenge obviously arises. You know, it can be, you know, even for someone like me who, you know, for many years it was very difficult to learn how to meditate, and, you know, learning, you know, this type of meditation, which is hard to call it that because it's an entire path really, you know, of love. But it's one thing, you know, to kind of remember the practice itself, which amidst, you know, I was reading in the chat, like Jackie's with the kids, and, you know, some people are like at their jobs right now tuning into the fire ceremony, where you're like working in other places and like bringing that energy there. And, you know, there's so many ways that we connect to that. And at the same time, it can really create, you know, so much challenge in, you know, who we are and how we are, you know, in our relationships and in just being in relationship to the world, you know, that's so intensely filled with injustice and hatred and, you know, just horrific experience, you know, all the time. And I feel like when we're in touch with that inner flame and we're in touch with that inner fire, it's like, for me to relate to myself as that, it simplifies the process of transformation that, you know, I'm always in, and I'm sure you're always in too, because you're here to grow, you're here to evolve, you're here to expand your consciousness, you're here to love better and love more as you grow. That's the point, you know, for so many of us, even though we all have our own unique paths, and the paths are just as many people that are here, right? But we all have that somewhere in our core. It simplifies it, you know, in so many ways to really relate to myself as something that is really solid but not fixed, you know, something that can transform and can change and can, you know, transmute, right? And can be an alchemist. It's like that for me, fire is such a massive teacher in that sense, where it's like, it's my teacher and it's also what I am. And when I relate to myself as fire, it, you know, can really support the process of the parts of me that are dying and the parts of me that are, you know, coming online or are growing, you know, in this journey of continually letting go.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautifully said. So one of the things that we wanted to bring up when we're talking about the fire as a metaphor, it immediately brought to mind this teaching of one of our like root gurus, who's called Nityananda. Actually, tomorrow I'm going on a little solo retreat to a remote place in Kerala in South India, to spend a few days at an ashram that he created, carved caves into the side of a mountain for meditation, and that was like the first ashram that he had in like 1910 or something like that. Anyway, once he used this metaphor of a lamp, you know, an old-fashioned lamp that has a glass chimney. You know, you light it and then the glass kind of contains the flame, but it also helps to amplify the flame, right? And he used the example, he spoke very simply and used very, very simple metaphors. So he used the example of when one of those lamps would get coated with carbon, you know, with soot, and to the point where like the light couldn't shine out, or to whatever extent it was there, the light couldn't shine out. And said that in the same way, we have to clean the soot of our minds so that the light of our soul can shine out. And it's such a true teaching, it's such a powerful teaching, and it also, being a longtime meditation teacher in this world, it can get misconstrued as something that's very unhelpful for meditation, which is that the mind is bad and we have to still the mind. I mean, I don't think that the people that come to this are into all of that anyway, frankly. But
We don't know everything.
we don't know
everyone.
everyone.
But generally,
Yeah, that's not our community's vibe anyway. But just to say that that's not the way that we approach meditation. However, I know that his teaching is really true about this. And earlier in the same passage where he talks about the soot in the lamp, he talks about how the various states. In yoga, we talk about the 3 states, which is waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state. But the 3 states mean all the different states of our mind. All the different states. You know, whether we're in a desire and focused on something, or whether we're in a fear and deluded by something, or whether we're just in a bad vibe, or we didn't get enough sleep, or our hormones are askew, or we didn't eat something that was supportive of our mind. So many different things can be there to where then that light of the soul that is eternal, it's always there. It just isn't able to shine out for others to experience it But also it's like we look through that same glass when we want to experience it. It's really interesting. And I've been thinking about this just as a very, very basic core, really this is yoga. This is like a core yoga teaching, is how, you know, we have all of these other practices like yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, all of these like kind of basic things of getting our energies aligned and our bodies clear and getting embodied at all, which is, you know, so much a big part of the work that we do. That is all like prerequisite to then being able to like, okay, there's this light inside, let me focus on it. Let me warm myself by it. Let me experience the divine in it, and let me shine that. Let that be the contribution that I have in this world. If we try to jump to all of that without dealing with the mind, without dealing with the different states that we're in, even just understanding that much. It's not about like that we make it so we don't go into different states. It's just like understanding it. So then we get this other basic metaphor that even when there's a cloud in front of the sun doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And all of these are like so basic that I hope it's not boring. But saying these really basic teachings, especially here, I always feel like that here, when we're here in India, and just saying like these like basic core classical yoga teachings, it's just so powerful. It's so powerful.
Yeah. Because I think it brings each of us, right? And that's why we hold this space into our own direct experience, you know, and all of this is about your direct experience, you know, and to be able to, one, have a space held for you to experience, but then also have a space for you to share that experience, to have a space where you can, you know, have your experience in this context, in this wider context of lineage, you know, a lineage of lovers and mystics and, you know, saints and sages, you know, that go back, you know, through all of eternity. You know, it connects us to that source. And yeah, I love what you were saying about, you know, the different states and just the simplicity of it. But it's like, you know, even studying, right, in this work, we'll oftentimes study like what is happening, you know, when we are in a contracted state, you know, like what, like, and specifically looking at that from these places of awareness, right? Like awareness is what, you know, creates the alchemy. And, you know, when we look at that, when we study ourselves, when we like allow ourselves to really see like, what am I thinking and feeling? And, you know, what is going on in my whole being when I'm triggered or activated, right? And then also the opposite. It's like, what's going on in my mind and in my body and in my heart when I'm feeling really, you know, connected to the earth and connected to God and connected to, you know, life. It's like, this is, you know, part of why we look at that, you know, is to be able to allow more of that essence of who we are, because that realness is what connects us to other human beings. It connects us to this truth that we share one heart and body. And, you know, it's what helps us, you know, wake up to that reality that we are here and we are here for a reason. Yeah, it was just making me think of that when you were saying that piece about the states and like really, you know, something I've been thinking about and I feel like we've been sharing in some of our other containers in Body Temple of like, even just knowing like, what do you do when you're overwhelmed? You know, like people, especially, you know, in the modern world, and why these practices of simplicity are so potent, or connecting to the elements are just so potent in like a real way. Because it's just, there's so much to be overwhelmed by. There's so much information, and to even know like, what do you do when you're overwhelmed? You know, to like know that you have choice. You know, this is part of what I feel these practices give us, and also what we hold space for with, you know, together when we are here in community.
Definitely. I mean, it's like these days, to train,
The water.
these days to train in, meditation is really just training people just to be in reality at all. It's like the thing of like experiencing life. We're not actually experiencing life when we're on our phones. Sometimes we're like communicating with people, we're making things happen using the tool of our phone. But when we're just like vicariously scrolling through social media, looking at stuff, it's like our brain is activated, but our body is just completely shut down. Even if it's something that like arouses us, or something that angers us, or something that activates us in some way. And how just noticing how often we spend time just like lost in some other world, and it's not even the world of our mind. You take away all the cell phones, you take away all of those screens, and we have plenty of things to be distracted by. For years and years, that's what I was helping people work with. And now it's like just working with people, just getting to the content on the screen of their mind is a huge thing in and of itself. But again, to some extent, it's just like we have to ride them out, these states that come. It's like something happens, and like Adriana was saying, we get triggered or we get activated or whatever, or we're just depressed. We're just flat, for whatever reason. And it's kind of like this flight that we just did. So we just were on this flight for like 24 hours. And you're on the flight, and that's it. You can't do anything else until the flight's done. And then even, we had a layover, and then we were at the airport, okay, we're not on the plane, but we're still like in the flight. And there's only so much you can do. You do what you can, but you sort of have this awareness that, okay, well, eventually we're going to get there. And then it's like, okay, well, then we're going to get there, but then we need a minute to get over jet lag. Okay, well, then eventually...
Some other time. We'll be here.
There's more like very loud rumbling happening outside. But, aren't the states kind of like that too?
Yeah.
Where it's just
For
like,
sure.
I just went through a breakup. I just, I'm broke right now and scared off my ass. I'm, whatever the case may be, where there's something that is creating a state in us, where we're not just like dancing with the light of our soul and just like shining it to everyone and being like, can I light your lamp with my lamp? Where you're just like, just like totally like a cashew, just like hunched over itself, like moving through life. But that's not going to last forever. And you could say, I could have a message here of saying, as soon as you notice that you're in that cashew position, stand up, wake up, shake out of it, like remember a positive thought, do a practice, say a mantra, come back into the love once again, brothers and sisters. Yeah, okay, we can say all of that, but I think it's also really important to have this message of self-love and forgiveness. I had this thing come up today, and I thought I was going to share it in the retreat, but maybe I'm going to share it here. I can do both, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, whenever you hear a story about someone meeting a guru, like a real guru, it always goes something like this. Like Ram Dass said it about meeting Neem Karoli Baba. You hear this story again and again when people meet like real, Siddha masters like Anandamayi Ma. They say, I came to them and they looked at me and they looked right into me, and they saw all of me, and they loved me, right? Every story is that. It all starts with that. None of the stories are like Full Metal Jacket. Like, soldier, you gotta unfuck yourself in the next 10 minutes or I'm gonna, like, you're wrong, you're all wrong, and I gotta fix you. It never starts like that. It all starts with, they looked at me, they saw all of me, even things that I've never shared with anyone. They saw the worst things about me and the best things about me, and they loved me more than anyone has ever loved me. That's how I believe, I shall submit to you. That's how we have to approach the inner guru. That is the attitude that we have to approach this work with. It's not that we're coming here to get fixed. We will get fixed.
Hallelujah.
It's not that we're coming here because we're wrong. We are wrong. It's like in capitalism, the customer is always right. In yoga, the customer is always wrong, by definition. But with this attitude, because when you were actually talking about this today, where we like love these aspects of ourselves.
Yeah.
We take the gnarly, ragged edges of our ego and our astrology and all these like quirky perversions about ourselves, and yeah, some of them we need to work on. We need to like get out of our addictions. We have to like get free from our inner bondage and all of that stuff. Yeah, let's do that. But I believe that it has to start with that, where we look into ourselves and we see everything, and we love it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I really felt that. I think like I was sharing that earlier with Harshita when we were walking because, Alex, who's an important person and teacher in our community, I think Alex is here. Yeah, I see Alex. Was sharing this teaching that, Harshita gives when we're in India, this teaching about up until now. So anything that you're kind of identifying as, right? Like I'm someone who is bad with money, or I'm somebody who, is unworthy of a love that isn't going to abandon me.
I'm somebody who doesn't like Brussels sprouts.
Whatever it is, right? Like on this path, and you can think about what those things are for you. Like what is the story? Because the story is coming from a state in your body that is connected to like your ancestors. It's not just like, oh, don't worry about that whole thing,
and society
and so many things that are just like uncontrollable actually. That initial, so the relationship, like what Harshit is talking about, is like how we're relating to that. And this phrase up until now, and I started practicing it, I don't know, probably 11, 12, 13 years ago. And I was saying how over these years of practicing that, and any teaching, right? I feel like any teaching on the path or anything that we're devoted to, right? Coming back to devotion, it gives us this mirror for our own consciousness over time, right? So initially when I was doing that phrase, it was like I was fixing myself, like even though in my mind and people tell you the shit that we're telling you, I was like, yeah, whatever, I need to fucking get rid of this shit that's inside me. Like this is fucked up. Like no, like I gotta go. Like I've got to get out of here. Like I just wanted to get out, of my experience, because it was so painful and just so much, it was so heavy, and it was so far from who I knew in my heart that I was, like but I didn't even know who that was, right? And so it did begin like that, and I was just reflecting on that since Alex shared this message, how much now when I say that, like how much love I can have for the part of me that is my past self. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, up until now, even if I'm still kind of being her, because some of those past selves, I'm always gonna kind of fall into a little bit, you know, like that's just part of being human. But like to be able to have those degrees of separation, of healthy detachment, to be able to love it, you know, is so much of how the power, the potency in it, and the way that it then fucks up, you know, my relationships or my life or whatever area it is that it's kind of, you know, going after, it creates so much, it gives it so much less power, and it gives love, you know, gives my awareness back to the power of love, because love in itself is power, you know, and that inner level, power within, which is, you know, so different than what we've conditioned to believe ourselves and one another to be, which is, you know.
But some people might be confused because we didn't actually say what the teaching is.
Oh, go ahead.
So the teaching is that you just say, up until now, I haven't liked Brussels sprouts. Up until now, I haven't been good with working with money. And then what that does is it owns it up until now. And then from this moment, it sets you free. Mm. It sets you, because it's not true. You can't say that any of those things as a permanent state. Mm. The only thing that's true is up until now, this has been the case. That's
Yeah.
the teaching.
Yeah. And how generous it is, you know, like even when we're sharing that with someone else or people that we trust and that we love, you know, it's like up until now I've been terrified of being close, and this is something I'm working on. And, you know, just to like get to know ourselves in that intimate way deepens, you know, our intimacy that we have with others, which is, you know, what we crave. I mean, it's such a need to have true intimacy, right, with others, with the people in our lives, for them to know us, and for us, you know, and that really does always start with us, you know, knowing and loving ourselves. And for me, it just keeps going. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. It just like keeps going into, you know, the deeper layers. And yeah, I'm so grateful for that, you know. Let's make sure the computer's charging, because it's saying it's, I think the plug is all, it's fine right now, so let's just do it. But no, it's not gonna stay. It's okay. I think we have enough charge.
No, we don't. I don't think we do. You keep talking. I'll
I'm just gonna read in the chat. So we'd love to just pause here before we do our practice, and you know, for me being in India, like after coming here, you know, year after year since I was 29, I'm 42 now. The atmosphere and the land, and just being here and being in this beautiful culture, and just the chaos, you know, and the love, you know, that I feel, you know, because I feel really settled in adventure, and I feel really settled in my nervous system when I'm in a different world. Like for me, for other people, that's really like dysregulating. For me, to be in a completely different world is like every part of my being just feels so like settled. Like I don't, you know, need to analyze it, although I have some ideas of why, but I don't think it matters. It's just a truth about me, and something, and why it's important on, you know, for many reasons it's important to come back here and to be in this relationship in a closer way, especially because this is part of what we, you know, guide and hold space for with others. So that's a big part of the appreciation. Beautiful. So happy that you're from India. So, you know, just saying that because so many of you have been studying with us for a long time, and just curious if you can like feel the energy and feel the shift, you know what I mean, in our own being, because many of you practice with us all the time. So just wanted to name that before we get into our practice, and just pause to hear some reflections from you in the chat, or if you have a short reflection on anything we're sharing, you know, in this little satsang. We'd love to hear from you. Anything that comes up for you around the soul or devotion, anything that comes up in, yeah.
Is it working?
Anything that we shared. No.
Charging? No.
No. And you could just unmute or raise your hand or put it in the chat, because your intuition is, you know, very, and your experience is very welcomed here.
I had a great practice too. MacGyver kink.
Thank you, Caitlin. Somebody unmute, let's just have a conversation. It's not a big deal.
Hi, I'll talk.
Good.
Um, I'm Laura. I really like the up until now practice. Something I've been dealing with a lot lately is, well, my whole life up until now is procrastination. And it's starting to really affect my job because it's a job that I don't, want to be in right now. But I'm not in a point where I can transition. So anyway, I really appreciate that practice, and going to start using it and see how things start shifting. So thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's huge. It's a revolutionary practice.
yeah. Love that. Thank you, Laura. Who else would like to share or anything you're feeling in this new year? I know some of us aren't celebrating the new year yet because we're astrology people, but yeah, anything you're feeling like you want to put into this space as far as your own devotion and connection to that soul and that love within. Does that feel important to you? What do you experience with that?
Hi. I just wanted to come on and say that I've had a lot of change this year. I moved to a different state. I became a grandmother for the first time, and I retired. So there's a lot of things alchemizing in my life, and I'm probably gonna cry. And it's been a little bit isolating, and it just feels really good to hear people who are trying to do what I'm trying to do, and to know that it isn't just me, because in the community that I have had, and I guess I haven't created yet, or I haven't been willing to. Up until now, I was unable to get out of my own way and get the community, create the fellowship and community I crave. So I love that too. I really love that. And I have people that I kind of work with spiritually, that I just think this will be really powerful for too. It just feels really good. I'm just really grateful that you all are here. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, I totally hear that. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially when we're in those transitional moments. And yeah, it's so important. It's really, yeah, it's everything, to have people and to, be in community and to have the protection and the guardianship of spiritual friendship, is such a massive thing, that it's like, to me, it's equally massive to having a connection to the unseen, to the guides and the masters and the teachers and, everyone, not everyone, but all the people that I'm choosing to spend time with that are in the unseen, it's like, it's equally important for me, to have spiritual friendship and to be, immersed in that. And yeah, it's massive. So thank you for sharing that and sharing the emotion around it, because for us, devotion is so connected to our emotional body. I mean, this is not, and we do not perform. Well, when we do perform, but when we perform, it's like in the name of devotion. Can't say we don't perform, because we do perform all the time. But it's like, it's not like a performance, you know what I mean? When we do this work, it really is about feeling it, like more than, there's so many different paths, there's so many different ways to approach spirit. But this is definitely a community of really, bringing our heart, forward and front and center, in that relationship to God, and to God is love. So
We should get into the practice.
let's do the practice. Yeah, let's do it, because we're gonna run out of time.
And if you didn't get a chance to share, there might be another chance to do that.
Yeah, and so make sure that you have a candle if you have one. If you don't, you can use this candle, right?
Yep.
This flame.
Yep.
It's not a candle. And also something to write with, because at the end of right after the meditation, I'm going to guide you into a little writing practice.
All right, so we have our lime green Bic lighter here. Should we take lights down? What do you think?
Use this one, because is that okay?
Oh yeah, it's vibey. So we can start off just by gazing. If you have your own candle, and I know a lot of you probably don't, and that's okay. And we have this one that's on our screen, and I just made this whole thing about you're not actually experiencing life if you're doing something online. Well, this is something that we're doing specifically for you right now. So we're just gazing at our flame and this little lamp, this little ghee lamp. And I'm going to invite you to just take this moment and just like ride the moment inward by closing your eyes. And we're going to do a visualization. So let your breath come in and out deeper than usual. Let your body settle into your seat. You might want to move a little bit. You know, we used to always just try to sit really still like a statue while we meditated, but we've learned that it's actually better if you move and get into your body and then get still. And then I want you to imagine a fire, a sacred fire, like a fire pit or a fire that is in a container. And let it be beautiful. Maybe it's decorated. And, you know, if it's harder for you to envision something and really see it, you just kind of imagine it. And if that's difficult, you can just feel the presence of something fiery. But this fire that you're imagining or that you're seeing is the sacred fire of ceremony. It is the fire of the divine that is in us, that is seated right in the middle of us, right there where we're breathing. And I want you to imagine that in front of you, there by the fire, there are 4 bowls. And they can be simple bowls or beautiful bowls, whatever the sacred is for you. And in those 4 bowls, there are 4 ingredients. One is rice, white rice. And another are black seeds, like black sesame seeds. In the third bowl, there is sugar. However you think of it, whether it's raw sugar or refined sugar, doesn't matter. The third bowl is sugar. And the fourth bowl is flower petals. Whatever is the kind of flower petal that you love. And the bowls are full. They're abundant with these offerings. And these are going to be offerings. So take a couple of breaths and root yourself in the connection to the fire. And in the Indian tradition, the fire is thought to be like a mouth of the divine that we make the offerings into, that we make the sacrifice into. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the rice. And we're going to imagine putting handfuls of the rice into the fire. And the fire is roaring. It's consuming them. And this rice, it represents what you're grateful for. It represents the abundance that you have in your life. The abundance of love, the abundance of everything. Everything that you're grateful for. Thank you. It's like every handful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And just imagine that, like actually pulling the energy of gratitude up in your being and offering it to the sacred fire. In the new year, it could be a New Year's meditation. It could be what you're grateful for from everything in this past year. Or it can just be general. And then we're coming towards the end of the gratitude part. So you just take all of the gratitude and imagine just picking up the bowl and just pouring the whole rest of the bowl into the flames. And the flames just consume it so happily. And one last thank you from the bottom of your being to the end of the infinity. And now we're with the bowl of the black seeds. These black seeds, they represent the mistakes we've made. They represent the actual mistakes we've made, and they represent the things that we feel burdened by with remorse. It's impossible to be a human and not make mistakes, to not cause harm, to not step on toes, to not cross boundaries, to not fall short, to not push too much. And we're going to start offering handfuls of these black seeds to the flames. And just as there were so many grains of rice, so many things to be thankful for, there are countless seeds in this bowl. We don't even know. These are mistakes not just from this past year, but from our whole life, and not just this life, but from our past lives too. Who knows what karma we're bringing with us? And as the black seeds are consumed by the fire, they pop. They pop and they crackle. And there's a fragrance that comes as they burn. Let them get roasted by the 100. And pull them up out of your body. Pull your shame up. Pull that which you feel remorseful in your body that holds you back, makes you shrink, that makes you hide your face, that makes you dim your light for others, and just throw them into the fire and listen to them crackle and burn. You don't have to relive them. You can't. There's too many of them. You're just letting them go for the sake of this new moment. And you're coming towards the end of this part of the meditation. So yes, you pick up the bowl. And whatever's left, you just pour them all into the flames. And the flames just consume them with your breath from your body. Now we've got the bowl of sugar. The sugar represents our desires. And they represent especially the desires that we have for things that are probably not so good for us, like sugar. The looking for love in all the wrong places, the looking for validation, the desire to make ourselves more by having more, the desire to fix ourselves when we don't actually need to be fixed. The desires for other people's downfalls, the desire that other people get less. Yes, we have those. The desire for revenge, the desire that bad people experience pain, all of these desires, we have them in us. Handful after handful of sugar, and if there were 1,000 seeds of the black seeds and hundreds of grains of rice, how many thousands of grains of sugar are there? We can't even begin to cover them. Handful after handful, these desires are not the ones that we want to live our lives by. Even if they're sweet for a moment, the result is poison. Every handful has thousands of particles of sugar, and as it gets consumed, it has that sweet, caramely, burning smell. Oh, they were so nice, weren't they? They were so... But for the sake of moving forward, we're just offering them to the fire. Like roasted marshmallows. And we come towards the end of this. And yes, again, we pick up the bowl. And we pour the rest, whatever's left in the sugar bowl, into the fire. And the fire just consumes it. And now we're here with this last bowl full of flower petals. And these, my friends, these represent our wishes, our blessings, and our benevolent desires, our wise desires, our soul desires. Some of them maybe were sugar-coated, but magically, when we offer the sugar, these have become very pure desires. Not pure in any kind of a religious way, but just pure meaning like these are rooted in wisdom. These are beneficial to us and to everyone else and to the world. These desires. And so we just start picking up these handful of flower petals, and they're soft and fragrant, and we just offer them handful after handful. And there aren't thousands, there aren't tens of thousands. There's only so many flower petals in a bowl. There are many. But these are chosen. These are refined. And the fire just delights and dances and gives back fragrance as we offer these benevolent, wise desires to the fire. And these, please count them. Please notice them. Please see them. It's like the fire will give you visions for their manifestation. Even if they're going to take some work, even if they're going to be a little hard, even if they're going to require sacrifice, they're sweet. There's a sweetness. There's a blessedness. There's a promise in every handful. There's a vow of your devotion. And you come towards the end of the flower petals. And here too, you just start grabbing them with both hands and flinging them and picking up the bowl and just dumping them and shaking them. So every last petal, every last benevolent desire is offered to this beautiful fire. We're not done. If you are ready, if you are a mad lover, you're going to stand up in this visualization and you are going to jump into the fire. All of you. And when you do, don't hesitate. You don't wade in. You just leap in, and alas, these flames don't burn. These flames don't cause pain. They immediately transform. They immediately transmute you into dancing energy too. Totally free. Totally full. Totally empty. You offer all of this for the very highest good. And then take a big inhalation and feel your beautiful, hairy body sitting in your seat again. You can wiggle and move. Bring this fire ceremony in for a landing, and once again open your eyes. And our eyes fall back on the flame that we have here. We're going to do some writing. So prepare yourself for that little shift.
So you can grab a pen and paper or open a document. And for those of you that might have to go, because it's sometimes people have to go at the hour, just make sure that you drink a lot of water and just resource to where you are. And please feel free to share with us via email or any way that you are connected to us what you experienced. It's really helpful for you, and we love receiving it. So just so you know. And Allie will put in the chat also our Miracles and Madness course that we have right now. It's a writing and meditation course, and it's so beautiful. People have been sharing their writings already from just day one, so it's very inspiring. So maybe Ali, if you look on Body Temple's website, you'll see it at the top, and you can pop that in. So if you're not there, some of you, I'm sure a lot of you are in there already, but just wanted to name that because you're all welcome to join us for 21 days of practice. And for the writing, the prompt is to just write what you just experienced, like just writing down your experience is just like allowing the prayer to continue. And if you want a prompt, we'll give you a few minutes to just free write, to just channel what wants to come through. You can use the prompt, my soul burns for. My soul burns for. And if you have any, I'll just add one piece in there for those of you that want it, but you can orient towards the non-human realms. So all the things, all the people that are in the unseen, and also the plants and the animals and the earth and the elements, and orienting towards our non-human kin. You could kind of take that on into the prompt if you'd like. But you can also just write what you just directly experienced, which will be very powerful and potent as your prayer continues. And we'll take a few minutes here in silence. Okay, so you can just let that line or two wind down.
Here's some sharing.
Yeah, we have 15 minutes, 16 minutes. One of the things that we do in our Body Temple community a lot, especially in our Body Temple dance teacher trainings and then when we have our gatherings in person is we do that kind of channeled writing practice, not editing at all, and then reading it out loud, reading it aloud to someone else who's just going to receive it from the soul, right? Just receive the medicine and the meaning of it. And it's so profound what comes through people when we do this practice, because we've been doing it for a long time. So I just wanted to, invite you to find someone in your life that you trust or that you love, and ask them if you could read this as an opening, right, into beginning this year with a deeper connection and a deeper invitation to be seen and to be heard and felt. And we would love to just, if you have any questions, and if you have any anything that you experienced in that meditation that you want to share, we would love to hear, what you experienced, even just a piece of it. It was a very, powerful and deep practice, so you don't have to share everything, but a piece or two. And also if any questions come up, or anything at all is arising for you on that spiritual or somatic level, we're here.
I wasn't spacing out. I was just reveling.
Great, I just wanted to make sure you were coming back. I tapped him on the knee because he was like, I was like,
Yeah, that was really ecstatic for me.
good.
Both the meditation and
I will share a little bit. I loved the 4 bowls. That was so fun. It was fun to imagine. Usually you're giving the offerings, so it felt more like I was the bowl of sugar and the like dirty desires. It's like that was, I mean, I've been sitting a lot with our teachings about desire, and that was so interesting to touch on for a little bit, and it came out in my journaling a bit as well, like to kind of, what is the difference between our like dirty desires or our like benevolent desires, I just that's such a fun, it was a fun thing to journal about and play with, and I'm gonna sit with this a little more, so thank you for that gift. And also, I can't believe, I'm like in awe that you're here after a 24-hour flight. So I'm so happy. Thank you so much.
What else are we gonna do? Got our second win. I mean, an hour before it, I was like, oh God, like, but yeah, no, we're so happy. We're so happy to be here with you guys. Yeah. And thank you, Amina. I love that. And that's what I love about this practice, right? Is like, because it definitely gives us, if we have any of that religious programming, which we all do to some extent, especially living in the West anyway, we have like, yeah, just we were, we didn't consent to being born into, this whole system, of puritanical bullshit, you know what I mean? And especially as women. So I love this practice so much because it's like, it's not a moral thing, it's just like, it's just offering all of it and then seeing what comes back and trusting it and letting there be more mistakes and letting there be, like it's just, it's a way to learn, and to digest our experiences so we can actually get more refined, because it's not something we can generally intellectualize or lean on our conditioning at all, a lot of that has to get, completely dismantled and unraveled from our bodies to be able to really even be with our truth, in that way. So I love that. Amber said, oh, hi, Amber. That was so much, there was so much that came through, especially as it coordinates with the Miracles and Madness writing. Yeah. Practice, the visceral, sorry, it keeps going, it's down, okay. the visceral rage that came through with the sugar. Fuck, I was mad and it felt good to let that go. I'm gonna give you my favorite emoji for that
It
one.
feels so good, but it feels so bad. It's like bad good. I was explaining
Yeah.
that we have this expression bad good, and I was explaining that to my son, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like some kind of a dessert thing or something. It was like, this is like bad good. When it's like this good, it's probably bad good.
It's so
Not because it's
beautiful.
too pleasurable, you understand. It's because it's like in yoga what we call a rajasic pleasure, which is that the pleasant, the feeling of it in the moment is pleasant, but the result of it is unpleasant. Sattvic pleasure is like, it's pleasant when you experience it and the result is pleasant. And tamasic pleasure is, it's not really pleasurable even at all, and the result of it is also bad.
Teresa said, trusting the fire to know what will stay and what will go. Yeah, it's really just such a lifesaver for me. It's like everything in my life, and that's why we focus on the sacred fire so much. But even the things that we love and that we want to keep, it's like also a way of working with attachment on the path, right? We're not going to become people who aren't attached to our lovers and our kids. We're over here doing all this work to develop secure attachment, right? And healthy attachment. But even in that, it's like with our work, with our families, with our lovers, to like offer the relationships and offer our work and offer everything to the fire, to trust that like what is really true, what is really meant, what is of the highest good for all beings, and like leaning into that, it's intense, for sure. But over time, in my experience, it's also just like necessary to maintain health actually in our connections, and to work with the fucking, demonic codependent forces, that come in and that give us that gripping and that is, not freedom, that is not liberation. So I'm so grateful you brought that up, Teresa, because that's, such a huge practice for me and for us, all of us.
And also to learn detachment also.
Yeah,
That is still a
healthy
thing.
detachment, for sure. The mouth of spirit calls to be fed, to be acknowledged and honored. It would consume and crackle with gratitude, remorse, desire, and benevolence. Totally.
Yeah.
Love that. Beautiful. Thank you. Anna, the fire burns and transforms everything. No control on what we want or not to stay, just letting go. Yeah. I feel so warm right now. Beautiful. Thank you. Gretchen said, I had a moving experience with throwing myself into the fire. It reminded me of the experience I had in the first ritual I did with you all at Maharose when we bowed to the dark goddess. It felt like a mark in time that I will just continue turning myself over to the fire. I felt a deep sense of trust during this part of the meditation. It feels liberating. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, does anyone else have I'll keep reading, but I want to make space for people's voices.
I'd like to share something.
Yeah.
Hi. About that story about the well, first of all, thank you, both of you. All of this has been really, really good and nice for me. But yeah, the story, Harsha, that you told about how like all the stories of meeting great beings it always starts with them seeing you entirely and then loving you. And like when I open myself up to that kind of whole thing, I feel like it feels less like me approaching the guru with that amount of love and more like me opening myself up to receive that love from the guru. Like, and then it kind of made me think about how like, like when people tell that story, even of being with those great beings, like I imagine as they tell the story, they're actually experiencing the opening again and experiencing the love again. And it kind of, yeah, like just made me think about also kind of a lot of things that were said here, like Adriana mentioned and Gretchen, just this idea of like the practice and the continually coming back to it and like, you know,
it's even those who are lucky enough to meet those great beings don't necessarily stay in that place of what that felt like, right? Like, so like just the power of these practices and yeah, is sinking in for me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jane. I love that. Yeah, and thank you for telling that too. That really also that moved me a lot. Just and I felt that too. Just the way that we are received, and being received, like receiving that, receiving that particular frequency of love, and how, yeah, just how transformative it is. It's really been the grace that has changed my whole life, and continues to. And I love what you just said, Jane, about like the practice also being there for that, right? Because it's not just one experience, and I mean, for most of us or almost anybody probably, right? It's like there's a continual callback, that we encounter through the storytelling, through the practice, the meditation, through the dance, through the writing, through, all the ways that we come into remembrance. Yeah, so beautiful. Yeah, I feel like, in my experience too, in that practice, and even when you said that story in that moment and like I had an emotion arise, it's like when I encounter that unconditional love, there's this experience, a paradox within me where it's like this recognition of like relief. And I'll just speak to like just now, like this deep relief of like, oh, that's who I am, as opposed to like, being human and people, even when people are seeing me as who they think I am, that's great or whatever, there's still something in that that's just like a little bit like, get that off of me, like you don't know who I am. Like there's something that's just like, gah, because it's like coming from, and it's beautiful too. I mean, it's like how we have friends and, I'm very grateful. But it's like there's something about that deep recognition that just like, like softens something in me. And also I felt like put me in contact with this layer of my own unworthiness that isn't negative. It's like this gift of like, am I that? It's like I'm not worthy. Like there's this like experience in me of unworthiness that's so powerful
and so known, like
Yeah.
so familiar,
Yeah,
so familiar that we don't even notice it.
right. And it's like not
We
just,
notice the other thing. We notice when we're like, oh, wait a second, I'm not unworthy right now. Like that feels like a psychedelic experience.
right. And I just feel, and then in reflection of like being with Ramdas, like all these moments in my life when I felt that like I'm not worthy, it wasn't like it was, of course there's like a conditioning element to it, that's there, but like there's also something so satisfying about feeling like just that part of me gets to be loved, and I know when it arises, that's what's happening now, right? And especially in this context, obviously. So
Yeah.
let's hear from another person or two, and then we'll read the chat, and then we'll go. You can just share your experience or anything that came up, any questions.
Let's see, Jean Lorene says, throwing the black sesame seeds into the fire reminded me that there's a place for my mistakes to be held. Yes. Oh man, that's so great. That they're part of this being human and that I don't need permission to keep living, even though I've made mistakes. Oh my God, that is so, yes, I love that. Wilma said, when seeing these demonic entities in others and them becoming very real in the experience, how do we meet that? How do I face that with clarity when there's this Christian programming? Like when I see them playing out, what do I do? It frightens me a bit, the things I see, and question if it's real. Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because it's like, you said Christian programming, and I don't know, like, let's put Christ back in the Christian programming. How did he do it? He loved it, you know? He didn't see a leper. He didn't see someone that couldn't be touched. He didn't see someone that was like a demonic person. You know, he loved it. He loved them. And probably way more than the Bible would ever dare to actually say. That was the thing. That was the radical love. Love your enemy. Like, if someone slaps you in the face, just turn the other cheek and let them slap you again. You know, not obviously, not literally, but it's like that. It's like you see it playing out and you just dare to still see everyone as worthy. Because that's the thing. It's like, with this, it's not a head trip. It's not a religion. It's not a belief. It's like, with this, it's this experience. It's like, I love every fucking gnarly part of myself so much that, like, I can't help but love those gnarly bits in others too. And it's not always easy. Just like it's not always easy to love ourselves. We also flip-flop a lot in seeing the worthiness of other people as well.
And I feel like, you know, Vilma, there's like, it's like what to do is what we're doing, you know, is to like have a practice, is to have a community, is to have a place, you know, where we can create greater protection, you know, where we can learn. I mean, I know for me, learning how to work with different kind of forces and energies, and, you know, not just becoming possessed all the time, whether it was coming from within me or coming from without, you know, I started experiencing both of those things as like one and the same in a certain way, because it would sometimes emerge from within me and I'd become possessed, and sometimes it felt like something came into my body and I would become possessed by something dark, something that felt untrue to who I was. And, you know, that's all the work that we share. And sometimes the thing to do is to get deeper support. I have a tremendous amount of support in my life to help me tease apart what's mine and what's not, to help me do this kind of, you know, shamanic energy work. Even our whole writing course, it's like a way to create that space, you know, because I think when we have a rejection, an understandable rejection of religion, we also are rejecting Christ. And the first thing that came to my mind when I read that was, well, give those things to Jesus. Like, you don't have to take care of that. Like, I'm not a preacher, but I think Jesus would probably take care of those fucking entities a lot better than you or I can in this fucking human limited experience that we're in, right, on some level. And so the fucked up thing about, you know, patriarchal spirituality and the way that it disconnects us from God and having a source where we can actually offer, like, and also, you know, take refuge in, you know what I mean? Like, hand that energy over. Like, this is not, like, I can't take this. I can't deal with this. Like, you help me with this, right? So whatever your relationship is to God, you know, to the goddess, you know, make it real. I mean, that's what I would say. And just like, make it more fucking real. Like, if you can't give over that shit that fucking scares you, then like, it's time to make your relationship to the divine much more real. And that's going to be a gift for you, and for all the ways that your sensitivity is here to help support the love that you're giving back. Because I know that that's also there, right? And that sensitivity isn't a curse. It's something that just hasn't had the proper, you know, holding. And, you know, we're always here for that. So just so you know that too.
Yeah. I feel like we need to end.
Yeah.
It's midnight.
Yeah. Now that I got my second wind. Now I'm hungry.
It's midnight in this haunted.
Trying to get on different schedules.
Mumbai.
So those of you that are in Miracles and Madness, if you're not in there, you should get in there. It's
Yes.
totally worth it. But Sabrina Sundari is holding space on Monday. So if you're in the course There'll be a co-working community space for you to come and write, do the practices, catch up on, stuff. If you're not doing it every day, you don't have to do it every day, although that's really a great challenge. Writing every day is definitely a huge part of my path and practice. But you'll have that space there in community. So please make sure you go to that live. And it's happening on Monday. I know I'm trying to get my belly and my sleep on the schedule. So, but now I'm hungry. Okay. Yay. I'm so glad. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's really good. I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of us. It was really fun to do. We're both like Gemini vibes, so we love writing, and we just realized like, wait a second, like, I've done a lot of writing courses over the years, embodied writing courses, but this one felt really fun because it was the first one we did together too, and like the creation of it. So there's a lot of good Shakti in it, a lot of good support, to work with all the different energies that we encounter. So sending you all lots of love. And yes, you are all writers, just to remind you in case you didn't, and to tell you in case you didn't know, you are a writer. And Alex, you are a goddamn good writer at that. Yeah, for sure.
Unless you're illiterate, and then you can learn and just keep practicing. Not everyone's a writer.
True.
That came out kind of harsh.
It's okay, we can end on that note. People can handle it. You're all adults. Okay. Lots of love, and we'll see you next month. We'll see you next time we're in the fire. Those of you in Body Temple, I'll see you tomorrow. And yeah, you can unmute, say bye. Lots of love and blessings.
Bye.
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 Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. I love you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.